Hello everyone and welcome back to the next episode of the Road to the Master series. This will be a crazy game and analysis in the episode number 86. We have a lot to talk about, so let's jump straight into it. In the round number 4 of the Prague Open, I played against an international master from India. During the preparation, I was happy to finally be able to play a high-rated opponent, but the more I looked into his games and openings, the more scared I got, to be honest, because he was playing nearly everything with top players, 2600 grandmasters with good results, even though with black pieces. So all in all, I got some respect to my opponent for sure. On top of that, I knew that in this specific tournament, at least he was playing aggressively, he was playing fast, he was putting pressure to the opponents. One thing about him though was that he was late to the every, let's say, game that he played, and it's not like late 2 minutes, rather like 20. So I felt like with good preparation, I should be able to not only get a time advantage thanks to the fact that he will be, late to the game, but also maybe due to the fact that I will somewhat surprise him. So it was not that easy to surprise the opponent when he plays so much. Therefore, I had to prepare quite a lot of openings, quite a lot of surprises, new stuff. Also for me, right? And in the end, I got surprised on move number 1. I played e4, my opponent replied with the Scandinavian defense, which he played too, but it was like 7th or 9th on the list of the frequency of the openings he chose, and he chose that against me. So all the hours that I put into the preparation went into the bin. On top of that, I did not even know how my opponent plays exactly afterwards in the Scandinavian. I remember that I saw some games in which he got back to d6, now he played queen a5, and I'm like, okay, what to do? And the last time I checked the Scandinavian was, I don't know how long time before that, but a year at least, to be honest. All I remembered is that I have this triangle setup prepared, and I chose it, even though I felt like my opponent can be prepared. So I chose bishop c4, not d4 or not knight f3 as usually, because after bishop c4 so early, I am planning on after knight f6 playing d3, not d4, so that after c6 making space for the queen, bishop g2 setting up some discoveries, queen c7 going away from those, queen e2, this is the triangle I was referring to. That's how this system, this variation got its name, let's say. And this I remembered for sure. What happens afterwards, I did not remember that well, unfortunately. I knew that after knight b to d7, which is not yet, let's say, compromising, which is not yet deciding on whether or not to play b5, I have a choice to either allow b5 or to not allow this. And I thought that it might be a good way of playing to not allow b5, because knowing, the instincts of my opponent, that he will try to perhaps take over initiative as early as fast as possible, not allowing him to do that seemed logical. Therefore I played a4, knight b6 hitting the bishop, I went back, he planted the knight on d5, quite a, investment of time, let's say, 3 moves in a row of the knight, but the position is allowing that, let's say. And in here I have a choice what to do. In general, what black wants to avoid in this opening, and my opponent avoided that, is to put the bishop early out to either f5 or g4, because then I have the choice, especially after bishop g4 happens, to play even f3, and then if it goes back, harass it even more and more, try to push my pawns while attacking the bishop with the tempos. Since the bishop is not there, either there or there, my dilemma was, should I already compromise my pawn structure in a sense and let my opponent know what do I plan on doing, and indeed choose like h3 g4 or even f3, but this seemed very odd moves, because for example f4 is also somewhat desired in those scenarios, but as of now I cannot play it. So yeah, the choices were limited, and I decided that I want to make a move that I will be normally making anyway, which was castle. I castled long and I said to the opponent, okay, let's have some fun and fight. Because it's rather unlikely that he will castle this way too. So we are setting ourselves up for the dangerous and double-edged sword position, which normally you don't see in the Scandinavian, right? Therefore, it's quite unusual to get such a fight, but that's okay on my part. After e6 that my opponent chose, which is, let's say, logical since he wants to finish the development, I played knight f3, also logical since the bishop did not go away to f5 g4. I can simply try to finish development without pushing the pawns so early, and on top of that I'm still waiting for the king to get there. But at this point, after bishop d6, my opponent is closer and closer, so already as of now I had a dilemma. Should I go for the centralization with rook h to e1, trying to solidify my activity in the center and claim that I am a little bit better and let's just maneuver the pieces? Or should I just now try to unleash the attack, right? When debating between those, and also I believe the debate in my mind was at this point, I knew that after knight f3, bishop d6 is highly likely, and I spotted that knight e4 might be a good choice, because my opponent will not ever want to take me there because I am now hitting the knight with a tempo. In the future I am playing bishop c3, both bishops are looking fine, this is the pressure, this is possibility, so the exchange is out of the menu for him, and this exchange, however, on my part would be amazing for me because in somewhat semi-open position the bishop pair would be okay to have. So he dropped back the bishop, so I felt like this move is usually the one that I would like to make, therefore getting a tempo with it, it was an amazing chance for me, right? And in here already the question is how to continue. Once more, should I go like this or should I go maybe like this? Should I exchange? Should I leave it as it is? Should I launch the attack? If so, how? And my problem was that I approached this game not only due to and from the, let's say, objective terms and perspective, but also from the, rating perspective. Like, okay, I'm playing this good guy, aggressive guy. Do I want to get into some crazy stuff with him? Because objectively speaking, the best idea to continue the game would be to already, as of now, start the attack. Whether g4, h4, we don't care, I should not care, just push it. Push it, push it, push it, because the king eventually should go there, and if not, it will stay there, and I will still try to push the pawns, take over the space, and so on. And I kind of felt like it. I kind of felt like g4 move is so tempting, giving it up, because if opponent would do that, I would play rook to g1 and then getting the pawn back, opening up the situation. So obviously g4 pawn is rather poisoned, and just going at it, attacking. But at the same time, after knight d7, which goes away from the attack before the attack even happened, did I achieve that much? Do I go for the king or not? Not that easy position to navigate. And as I've said, once I would, be approaching it as a objective one, as a, just a game without giving context to it, maybe I would have gone for that. But with the context of the specific opponent, I just was, unable to do that. I chickened out, if you may say it like it. Anyway, in here I decided that this decision of pushing the pawns might be delayed, and I expected my opponent to castle if I will play some not so, let's say, sexy and aggressive move, and I chose rook d to e1, as I've said, trying to take control more of the semi-open file, and at the same time leave that rook there on the king side to maybe indeed attack. My opponent castled as expected, and as of now I took an f6 with a check and opening up the e file, so that after bishop f6 I can play knight e5, and I believed that at this very moment my opponent should exchange everything on e5, so takes, and claim that he is only slightly worse in the endgame. And even though I misevaluated the position, I am actually not that slightly better, at least according to the computer. I would be happy with a draw, to be honest. Unfortunately, I was not in the best fighting spirit, especially in this type of position that I knew is kind of hard to break through. And I felt like objectively this would be the best for black, because otherwise I felt like if I planted the knight on e-file with the help of the heavy pieces. If the exchange will not happen, I will solidify it furthermore and then finally start pushing. Finally, I knew that, okay, now my opponent, my dear opponent, you have the choice of drawing against me. If you will not take it, I will crush you. This was my approach. But still, as I've said, objectively, I should have launched the attack like 3 moves earlier. Anyway, we continue the game. He chose a5, so he decided, okay, I am attempting to attack you to kill you too. f4 happened, b5 happened, g4 happened, and we got a game. Now we got the game. In terms of what is my opponent doing, I knew that in this specific triangle variation, a4 might seem counterintuitive in a sense that I am pushing the pawn in front of my king, kind of, but due to the, let's say, preparation I had this 1 or more year ago, I knew that this is not as bad as it seems. This is a construction that should allow me indeed to survive, at least for some good amount of time, the let's say, first attack of my opponent, because should he take there, I mean, I will take back, right? Should he push and close? Okay, I'm happy with that. So the only problem that I would have encountered probably would be if and when the knight to c5 move would be possible. But one knight I already exchanged. This knight is not that easy with him to jump there. And even if I remembered the lines that after knight c5, if it happens, I would just drop back the bishop, allow the pawn to be lost, and then, you know, still those pawns are not that close to mine. I might be faster on the king side. So all in all, I felt like my attack is practically better. And even though computer does not agree, indeed, practically speaking, I got a better position within next few moves. As I've said, my opponent should rather open up my king, so he took, I took back. He now played bishop b7, not only developing the piece of this one, I mean, but also that one perhaps for the future, and protecting the pawn. Even though it's so multitasking, computer does not like it apparently, but I liked it, you know, usual stuff. I pushed the pawn to g5, bishop went back, and in here, if I believe I fought for about half an hour, maybe a little bit less than that, because I knew that I cannot burn too much time with such a good player, because I believe this is the most critical moment of the game. Why is that? Let's try to go scenario by scenario, move by move, idea by idea for both sides, starting with black. Black have one idea to attack me, which is to kick away the bishop from the a4 square, so that the pawn can be finally pushed, protected by the rook. So the idea of the opponent would be to play knight b6, bishop b3, a4, bishop a to a3, something along those lines. So basically 3 forced moves, and already at that point the pawn is on a3. Really risky, really close to my king, right? So that is something that you know, I had to have in mind. My attack, on the other hand, is much slower, because if I want to break through and get to opponent's king, I perhaps have to push not only one pawn, but either the second one from here or the second one from here. Two seems like the bare minimum. Therefore, my attack is slower, but once I will get there, I should be crushing more, right? Because there will be 2 pawns with the rooks, with the knights and whatnot. So it's the debate of who will get to the opponent's king first and with how much impact. So in here, I debated for quite some time, the inner dialogue, right, if you may say, about what to do. And the choices I thought of were h4, just simply going at it, right? Some rook g1 maybe, or f1, trying to either support the g-pawn or support the f-pawn, because I did not like the fact that in some scenarios it's hanging. And if I wanted to be more reactive, in a sense that I wanted first to do the defensive work and then attack, knight c4 was on my mind, with the attempt to take control over the b6 square, not allowing knight b6. What would I allow then, though, is this f4 pawn to be taken, because I would open up the diagonal for the queen. So knight c4 as an attempt to stop the attack at the price of losing the pawn. h4 saying, okay, I'm fine with my king, I will just try to crush yours. Or some alternative to h4, well, but with the similar idea. I don't care about knight b6, I want to crush you. This is more or less the type of scenarios we had. And I am in here proud of myself for two reasons. One, computer does not like my approach, but the reasoning behind it is computer-like, not human-like, so I cannot blame myself for not seeing everything precisely. Second of all, I was working during the autumn of 2025 on the ability to sacrifice some material. If you remember some games from the Cracovia Chess Festival, indeed in those I was not afraid to sacrifice an exchange or a pawn during even the opening preparation or in the later stage of the game. So the fact that I chose knight c4, calculating well enough that knight b6 as of now is not a threat, and making this decision of giving up the pawn for the attack, because if the knight, instead of jumping there, will jump there, it significantly slows down the attack of my opponent, I decided, okay, let's do it. So I wanted this pawn to be gone, I wanted to launch the attack faster, in a more effective way, and just fight. So I am proud, practically, humanly, of myself, even though objectively it seems like not the best scenario. Funnily enough, I believe h4 is the move that the computer desires the most, because after knight b6 there is obviously a choice of g6. Giving the bishop away, you know, playing g6 even without the pawn being pushed to h5 to at least help a little bit. Yeah, like, and this is the only reason why this h4 move is better objectively than my knight c4. So can you blame me for not playing g6? I mean, come on. The variations in here were crazy when I looked at them. After knight a4, apparently after g takes f7, king cannot go into the corner because I have some checkmate possibilities, and opponent has some one and only moves to survive for a little bit, but I would be winning anyway, because queen e5 is the only way to stop the checkmate, to be honest. Therefore the rook has to take, after which I take the rook, so at least I have already as of now claimed some material back, but it's not enough, because opponent can try to take here. Once I take her king f8, how am I going to continue my attack, right? I am down on material a little bit, but yeah, I'm kind of making sense. But you may argue that okay, stop this, you know, narrative, because the king is wide open, you can try to attack it in any way. That's true. The best way would be perhaps to try like this and so on. The point is, seeing all that, admiring all that, appreciating it, estimating correctly, at this point would be just crazy to just launch g4, then play g6 without the h-pawn, leave the bishop behind. I mean, come on. On top of that, in here, I don't know, hg can happen. And what now? Now, apparently, h5, g5, h6 is crushing, and I am much faster, with the basic idea that my opponent wanted to perform on me, right? With this a3 move I suggested. What else? fg might have happened to keep the h-pawn on the board, and once more I have one and only choice that makes this position borderline, let's say, winning maybe for me. Knight takes g6, obviously, right? And after hg, I would be taking the pawn, then pushing this one, trying to open up the diagonal, the file, and so on. So tell me, guys, in the comments, is it obvious to you? Because for me it was not. For me it was not. And when you are at that point and you have the dilemma of either pushing your attack or defending against opponent's attack, and when you see something concrete for him, you don't see something concrete for your own sake, do you still go for the attack in kamikaze style, maybe something will work out, or do you go on the defensive mode? I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I chose the defensive mode, and I'm proud. You may be disagreeing with me in the comments. Tell me then, and we have the discussion. Who is right in here? Because after knight c4, what happened is that I indeed lost a pawn, but I played queen g4 with the attack to the knight, so the knight went back, and now I played h4. So I wanted to say that this position felt better for me, because knight b6 is yet not, let's say, existing, and I already have this pawn, hoping to push it further and further. Queen is also fine. My attack is growing, at least that's what I thought. Bishop a6 happened though, and once more I had a decision what to do. And yeah, what should I do, right? In here, I wanted to jump away with the knight, because after knight b6, this pawn is hanging. I may be able to take it, but also there is the dilemma of, do you really want to take such a pawn? Not so sure. And if not so sure, maybe the knight has to stay there to at least one more tempo to not allow this knight jump for one more time. And if so, what can I do? This is incoming, this is incoming. Should I try to once more playing something defensive, or should I go for the attack on the king side, right? In here, in the end, I decided against that move, because after this, that, that, I felt like, yes, I stopped the pawn, yes, my king is safe, but what is this bishop? I can basically remove it from the board, right? And then I'm relying only on my attack. If I will attack and crush through and win, I will win. If I will not finish off this attack with this bishop being there, I should be lost, even though materially speaking... Wait, no, I'm still pawn down, right? Yeah, I'm still pawn down. So I'm pawn down materially speaking, bishop down positionally speaking. Yeah, I did not believe my attack that much to go for it. One thing I also wanted to add previously, I forgot about it. I also could have gone actually, instead of this g6 crazy line that we discussed, to bishop b3, a4, bishop a to a3, and then b3 is not that bad, because there is only one pawn in front of my bishop. Maybe in the future I will be able to push it to b4, and on top of that I could have actually gone for b4 in here. And I saw this and I thought, no, I am not that crazy. People will laugh at me, you know, for playing like this and then losing within 5 moves, because it seemed wrong, it seemed humanly not right. I mean, engine-wise, it's right, it's okay, right? But yeah, this is it. This just shows you the complexity of the position. But going back to the game, to this point, I decided to play c3 to allow myself to not do the zigzag with the bishop, but rather play to c2 within one move after the exchange on c4, right? But at the same time, I'm kind of slow with my attack, right? That's the problem. And if so, my opponent, instead of also going immediately for the exchange, immediately for the changes in the position, he delays them. He plays rook a to b8, introducing new piece into the attack. I played bishop c2 anyway, even though it was not attacked by the knight on b6. He played queen b7 straight away. Interesting choice. In here, I set up a trap of queen e4, and you might argue, wait, there is the double pressure. Those are the defenders. If the defender will be removed, you are in trouble, right? No, and this is the trick, because after takes, I would take, and after takes, I go here, and all of a sudden my king is perfectly fine. His is not, and if so, I am threatening with checkmate, and on top of that, threatening with taking the knight. And this is it. This exchange would have allowed me to open up my bishop and create pressure to the knight. I am winning material in here. And yes, the king on d1 is not, let's say, green in terms of long-term position, but as of now, with the material up, I should be okay, at least for some time. And since that's the case, after queen e4 that I chose, my opponent did not go for the simplifications. He played one more preparation move, rook f to d8, also giving him some space for the king to escape. And apparently this is also what I should have done, because now this is in the air for sure. If I, let's say, waste a move, not even like waste because it seems okay, takes, due to this rook being actually on the d file, not rook f to e8, not rook f to c8, f to d8, it's a checkmate in one. Very beautiful one, because the bishop is pinned, the knight takes over the squares, and on top of that there is the fork, so everything is there, right? So I cannot really allow this trade on c4 to happen. in this scenario. So what can I play? Apparently only one variation gives me a chance of survival, and it is king d1. So as I've said, opponent is allowing himself to escape. I should copy him and try to escape with my king too, trying to, you know, be one tempo faster than my opponent. Because if now the exchange happens after this, this would come with not a check. So if it's not a check, I will be the one checkmating, crazy enough, because the king was not yet able to escape through those squares. And if so, after dc4, opponent is also not allowed to give me the fork once more because the b pawn survived, so I can take with the pawn. So opponent is very close to winning, I am very close to winning, and here the edge is on my side because the king escaped from this forced stuff. So after king d1, my opponent would not be able to exchange on c4 yet. And if so, I maybe would have been able to go away from the pressure, like maybe play some solidifying move like rook h3, adding some defense to the d3 pawn, or later on allowing myself to play rook d3 if the exchange would have happened, and then slowly maybe getting out with the king from the queen side towards the center, maybe the king side. Crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. Unfortunately, and maybe even obviously, I did not see it all. I chose b3, which seemed also quite solid to me, saying that yes, I have the wall of the pawns one rank higher than I would normally like it to have and wanted to have, but they are protected with the bishops, so it's like double shield, right, in a sense. However, it's not working that well, and with the pressure of playing a higher rated opponent, with the pressure in reference to the time situation, thinking that still 15 moves are there until time control, and crazy stuff is happening all the time, I couldn't really think for longer at this point when deciding to play b3 about the sacrifice from my opponent, which happened and which is working. And I told myself, nah, can't be working, but it is. What's the sacrifice? After b3, a4 happens, trying to open up the b file. I obviously will close it down, and now opponent can indeed sacrifice on b4. I thought it's not possible, it should not be working, but it is possible and it is working. Why? Bishop b4 happened, takes, the pressure towards the c2, the d3, the a2 possibilities, and so on. Everything is open up. Mostly this is the problem, because once the bishop would be exchanged, if I take back with the king, those heavy pieces along the b file would just checkmate me within next two moves, here, right? So that's the problem. If so, can I move the bishop somewhere? Not really. Here is hanging, here, even a3, a2 might happen, right? So I have to take, and this was the position in which I felt from the distance, well, I might survive. There is not even a check in here, so why should I lose in here, right? Well, the problem is not only with the checkmate that indeed is not there yet, but also maybe with the a-pawn pushing simply, maybe with the fact that after some exchanges there would be some checkmate pattern, this and that, you never know. And this is kind of the problem that I also encounter, and you saw that plenty of times, handful of times during my analysis, that I go into the positions like it, I allow sacrifices thinking that, well, there is no checkmate, so I'm fine, but I am not fine due to some other circumstances, right? Other stuff. And here it's the same. I'm not being checkmated, but what to do, how to play, etc., etc., that's the problem. In here, I decided to play knight e5, which was logical to me. I would love to actually exchange the queens, and on top of that, not only I am looking into the direction of the king, but also some triple fork is there too on the menu. My opponent though played the most precise way, rook d4, hitting my queen and obviously not allowing the trade. This is not possible because some check in between would have happened and then my queen would be lost. So I need to just go away with the queen somewhere. The question is, I don't have that many squares and routes to go to. If I, let's say, went with like queen f3, trying to hit the pawn, simply rook f4, making use not only of the open B file or D file, but also the fourth rank. Those heavy pieces are crazily well coordinated, unfortunately, so I would not like to allow this rook f4 move with a tempo. Queen c6 does not work for similar reasons to the ones in the game, but also on top of that, thanks to the fact that I have activated the rook of opponent, like rook f2 happens and the checkmate is incoming like this, like that, whatever. So yeah, at this point after rook d4, I felt that I have to take on c6, and in the game I felt all right. I felt like I am surviving. You know, queen b2, king d2. I'm okay. No more checks. Yes, this is pinned, but this is not working. The knight is giving some support, right? What else? Yeah, not so many checks. If here, I mean, I can at least go back. Maybe I can go up. Maybe I can cover. I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. But from the distance, I completely missed the idea of bishop b7. Kind of primitive, if you may say. Just trying to pin my queen, skewer my queen with the rook. And I was thinking only about my king, the checks, the checkmates, like dark squares, whatever. And now all of a sudden, simple bishop b7, going back with the piece, focusing on the rook instead of the king. Psychologically speaking, quite hard for me at least to see it. And why is it good? Well, first of all, it gets material. Second of all, this material was really helpful to me in terms of the defense. And I don't have that much to do anymore, unfortunately. I chose queen c7, hitting the f7 pawn, but my opponent like makes nothing of it. He just takes the rook. After the check, he goes away. And I was joking with myself after rook h1 happened and rook f4 that I am missing just one move. One move perhaps would be enough for me to win the game. Or maybe not, but I would be closer. Because imagine that, I don't know, I have played this and he played this, right? I am nearly winning thanks to the knight g6 check, takes. Nearly, right? Nearly. Still, rook h4 is there. So yeah, even if I had this one more move, I doubt I would be winning. And since I don't have it, I cannot create enough play on the opponent's king. And if so, what can I do? Like, I took a pawn and my king is much weaker. I was dreaming about scenario like rook takes h4, let's say, and then I would be delivering the smothered mate, right? The wet dream of every chess player to for such mate to happen on the board, but obviously it did not happen. My opponent was too strong. He played rook b2 f8. He claimed that he saw this. He double stacked his rooks to not allow it ever. He even got away from the battery with the queen just to create the battery with the rooks. Logical too, because now rook f1 is a big threat, and the only way for me to stop it is to play queen h3, cover the square. But after queen a3 check, king d2, rook f2 check, king e3, queen c2 check with the triple fork, finally after d4, queen c2, I resigned. Maybe I should have resigned in like 3 moves earlier, but with basically 0 time on the clock, I was just trying to, you know, blitz out the moves until time control. But this is the move 39. I decided, okay, I don't need time control to know that I am lost. So I resigned after a crazy game with actually some hopes and some possibilities to take over it, to take over the game, to crush the opponent. Not in a winning sense exactly, but really putting a lot of pressure practically and objectively. So I had my chances. I did not take them well enough in this transition between opening and middle game, especially. And then in the middle game, you saw the lines. I spent like, I don't know, I guess 10 minutes explaining all that. It was not easy by any means. I hope. I mean, I hope that I am not that bad at chess. So yeah, crazy game. Important one, aggressive one, and you know, you cannot expect to crush such strong players every time, but because of how the tournament itself was constructed, I knew that once I didn't take this chance to at least get I don't know, half a point with a better player, unfortunately after a loss I would be forced once more to play against lower rated opponents and forced into winning against them in order to once more get back to such highly rated opponents. So even though the game was not bad, I gave my best and it was okay, and I hope entertaining for you too, guys. I left with a feeling of frustration really, because I knew that, well, I lost white color, I need to win on demand with black on the next day, but you know, it is what it is. We are chess players, we know how it goes, and I will not quit fighting, right? So with that note, at the end of the video, thank you very much for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would like to invite you to the tomorrow's analysis of the next round. As of this one, thank you all for watching. Bye bye.